basically, this is SharePoint. This is our company XOFT Systems SharePoint site. You can see we have already built different connections and all that. But SharePoint is basically just for Yasin purpose. I know for all others, it's kind of known what this application does basically. But for Yasin, in SharePoint, you can create a table. List is kind of table. You can name it just a table. So just if you're familiar with the SQL or any other data source databases, so it's just similar to that. You can just create a list, basically a table, and then add different fields into it. But this is just for the document libraries where you can just create the documents and upload documents, and these are the pages you can create the pages and all that. So just a basic like basic overview of this. So let's create a list. Our list name would be because we are working with this form cure notice. So let's name this our list as cure notice. And it's asking if you wanted to put into the site navigation. Just we want, and it's on the left now, basically up here on the left now. Cure notice is so here from here you can see how you create add columns and the fields for your table. So let's go back and see what are the table names. So first is the basically date. So we can say date columns. You can pick up date column here and name it your date. And the other form is POC name. So we can just rename existing here because this is a text column. So that's why I don't create rename it as the date cure date. But for the POC name, we can just name it cure POC name. So I'm not using the spaces generally for the field names. You can always use those spaces. It's always good. Being a developer, we don't like spaces. Spaces always cause some kind of issues. So next is the cure company. Company, your address. So why I'm using cure prefix? Basically, it's always helpful. Uh, there might be so many different fields. So if you use some kind of prefix with any of your table, it always helps to distinguish with other similar kind of fields or columns, right? So it's always helpful. So being a developer, I think these are the things we all need to consider whenever we are creating anything, even in the database side. If you are creating similar kind of table structure or something, it's always good to have some kind of prefix to keep all the fields and column names distinguished so that we don't get into any trouble later on when we are working on developing something, writing code. Your phone and your email. Your email. And for reference and subject, so all I'm just choosing just a text field. Your reference, your subject. So these are the basically field where we can just drop the data into. And the next one, we can just choose the multi-line text and dump entire body text into this. Pure tail text or whatever. And and the signature name and title. So keep it simple, just like I said. Your name and your title. So we got this stuff. This is basically just a table structure for this form. So we can just get, we can, whenever user fills in this form or this template, the data would go back into the SharePoint as a data source. It's just like the SQL Server. That's what we talk about, right? Any questions, Yasin, so far? Or anyone else? Okay, so let's create a simple
Can we group
Yasin.
the list in under a single list or in a single name?
Group a list in a single name. You mean
You
multiple
have
lists
created
into one?
you have one and another one name, so you can categorize that this belongs to this segment.
Okay. Mm, if I could get your question correctly, but I don't think so. But what if we talk in database structure settings, then we can create more columns here, and a foreign key and primary key, all these kind of things we can create, and then we can.
No, it's okay. We have got a single table for that. We have multiple projects, and we want to distinguish all tables for that project, so we
Oh,
cannot
okay,
get
okay, okay,
confused.
okay. Generally, I know I got your point. So generally, what we do is basically use just a uh, project prefix just to distinguish, or mostly like this is one application. SharePoint sites we can create as many. This is just one of the site we are just using for our company, but there's no limitation. And though Microsoft, they are like we can create more than one site. Even for each project, generally the recommended approach is to create for each project create a separate SharePoint site so that you can keep entire data everything separated, right? So for now, we are just using the same
Do you
site
need
for
to
everything.
create a separate environment? Sorry.
No, not the separate environment. But let's see. So I can distinguish with the prefix. This is the one approach. If I go on home here, you can see I already have three different SharePoint sites. This is basically communication site. This is one. They are also known as the groups in Microsoft because whenever you create a SharePoint site, on the back end, Microsoft creates a group in Microsoft Teams. If I go back here on Microsoft Teams side, you can see whatever sites are there, XOFT system.
Okay.
So they create different groups on the backend for those. So this is all company XOFT system.
Okay, this can serve the purpose.
Yeah. So you can create as many sites as you want because generally the recommended approach is just to create a separate site for each project.
Mhm.
But I know our projects so far are very small, so we cannot create. We don't want to
Sorry.
make it more confusing because it's always
Mhm.
for smaller projects. It's always good to just keep in one place so that you can just
Mhm.
understand what is there, right? And less administrative effort.
Oh, okay.
But for uh, but for the bigger projects, of course, we're gonna go with that. So here on the left now, what was the name of the cure? The list or the table what we created here is the for keyword notice. This was the list or the table what we created. So here we are. So let's jump back onto the canvas side. Let's create the one third class. I'm just going to name it as a third class. To the space here. And here we are. So this is just a canvas, a screen. I know we learned a little bit before. We looked into different things, but quickly I will go one more time. This thing, basically, this drop down gives us all the properties related to this screen. Wherever the focus is, based on the focus, it will give all the properties. You can see some of the properties are here, but these properties you can always see here from this drop down as well. And then this is the FX, and here, and it's pretty similar to the Excel sheets if you have already worked on Excel side. So the formula and the coding style is pretty close to the Excel formula and Excel thing. So, but the programming
I
language
just
used,
say the so you can just the left side drop down is like events. In if we look into the JavaScript or any other programming language, you can say these are the events, and the next phase is what is the after the actions that will be called against
action.
that
That's right.
event.
That's right. That's right. That's a good. Thank you. So basically, you can write like fill in. It says currently the fill in property is white. If I can say, if I see dot red, the good thing with this one is it's already giving you uh, like intelligence. So that's the beauty of it, because intelligence is also pretty strong. But we'll keep it just to white. Uh, but you can choose any of the properties of this screen from here, and take an action. So the programming language used within this Canvas apps is known as the Power FX. Power Power FX. Yeah. If you Google it, Power FX, so you can find different formulas, functions related to the Power FX, and it's pretty straightforward. Most of the formulas are simple and straightforward.
They're Excel-like formulas.
Yeah, it's not exactly. I don't know what happened to my internet. It's not nothing coming out. Am I typing something wrong or? Power FX, come on. Oops, I don't know what
You can
happened to my
jump to
Google.
I have just a link.
Really, Power FX cat. Let's there's something wrong with my Google. I don't know. Uh, okay, so yeah, you guys can search and look for Power FX, and you can see a lot of different formulas and examples. So let's name this screen first. Screen, you can name it whatever you want it to, but let's do the cure notice, because that's what we are trying to create. Cure notice screen. Uh, so let's copy this header from this screen and move it over. It's simple. Otherwise, I can just, but you can copy paste. This will, like this way you will learn like how to copy, because it's a little tricky. You cannot use right control, uh, right mouse, right side of the mouse, right click. But let's do this. Let's copy this, just the header, and we can just differentiate. So I'm just going to, I have pressed control and selecting these controls from here. So now only header has been selected. If I press Control C and Control V here, you can see it will copy only the header part. So these are basically, we can just go over one more time and we can just change the color, everything. But these are basically, this is just a rectangle. You can see if I go here in plus, I can see this is just a rectangle. Rectangle, this is just the rectangle control.
It's a rectangular
And
container, and then on the inside container there are labels, button, and other controls.
yes, just to give a proper shape. The rectangle is just to give a shape. It's just for the shape purpose, but the others are, this is just the label control. This is just the label control. You can see from the icon, it just gives, this is just the button because these are the button control. This is just
Yes,
the
and you
text
can
control.
consider this is as a div that is only container, and inside container there are labels and buttons and input text, input elements, items.
Yeah, let me change the color first. Okay, so why this happened? So that's a good point. So we can talk about this. So when I copied this code on the other application and pasted here, so the reason it's striped black, but here it's not black, right? Here it's not black, but here it turned black. So the reason behind it is very interesting. So we can, if you see here on the application side, this is basically application. So this is a start screen. If I go here on the start, there's no code, but invisible. We have, so this was the screen basically. So if I go here on the visible, or is there anything? Let me see. Why is it not showing? Road on start. Yeah,
Maybe application
start.
reference is
Yeah.
there. And
Okay. No. No. Yeah. Basically, I got it. So that's what I wanted to show. That's also very important. So I'm going to copy this. What's happening? This is basically a start on start function of this
these are global
entire
variables
application.
here.
These are basically global variables. So they have defined these as a global variables on the start of the application. So that's why basically the actual color of these controls was this the black, but at the start of the application. So if I go on start event, on start event of this application, it's not the screen. So this is a screen basically, but this is the app. It gives you all the events for the application only. So on start of this, I just pasted this. So now basically we are copying the same global variable color. So we already defined this as a global variable and then provided the value. So still we don't see this turned as a light blue, right? Because even though we have provided the global variable, but what's happening? So because we provided this global variable on start, but by the time we started this application, these variables were not there. So let's do this. Click here and run on start. So now the colors have changed, right? Because we this executed the on start event for the application. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? So now we already here on the layout side, so we can just design it. I see it's coming layer down from the top, so I'm just going to push it layer up. See, this was basically rectangle, and rectangle background color is blue, dark blue. But since the label on top of it having light blue, so it's just picking up the label color. So I'm just realigning all these by using just the mouse and cursor. So let's move this control now. I can just slightly move it up. Oops, they are just overlapping. I can just adjust and all these controls accordingly. It's just a drag and drop, so that's a good thing. We don't need to do much. I'm just realigning text. Let's bring this text onto the other side. Not much room there. And this get item. So this get item is basically related to input user input field. And this is new item. I just click it here. We can align it as you want. It's really up to you. I know I didn't align it nicely. It's not nice looking, but you can obviously spend more time and make it more good looking. It's just a drag and drop and everything. So this is just a we just define the header. But I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I wanted to give you once more. Basically, the ideal in this application, it's not like that, but the ideal these header must be as a component. I know this application, whoever designed this application, they did not make this header as a component, but the ideal is to create these kind of headers as a component, so you can just simply call it on any page. You make it so generic, so you can just drag and drop on any page, and you are done. So here, even though I copied from the other screen, I still had to adjust the alignment, everything. But if you had this as a component, it would already know where it needs to be dropped and what the X and Y axis should be. The values are already provided as a component, so it would be much easier. So the header has been designed for our new application, but let's change the label here. Our form is cure notice. So let's change it to the cure notice. Here so far we see the button. This is how we design name different variables or the control. I know I'm not going to change all these control names for now, but just the best practice is for the button, just use the btn and then the application or the form name or something like that. Based on that, this is the best approach. So whoever sees your code or your application can recognize like how professionally you have developed this application. So this is basically the recommended approach to use even for the text box. You can see txt. The smaller, basically for the variables and the control name, generally it's recommended to start with the small and then the capitalize. So you can see the names are uh, are following the standard. So basically,
Yeah, this is called camel case. Very
camel
short.
case. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that's a very good approach to have this. So the next thing, basically, if we go back onto this form, how this form was designed. So we have these things. So basically, there's another control which is kind of hidden. Now we need scrollable. If we go back onto this application here, you can see this page is scrollable, right? So it's a scrollable, and we can scroll down and up uh, on the same screen. So for this, Microsoft is using on the backend. It's kind of hidden component. It's not directly sitting here. So let's drop that hidden control. It's known as if you click on the screen. So we need to split screen templates and scrollable. So it's a tricky so far. I don't know why Microsoft is hiding this control. So this is basically canvas control. This is known as the canvas control. So now we need to copy this control from here, copy here, drop on our screen, which is here. Uh, and now we can delete this screen because we don't need this screen. This is very hidden approach. Even yeah, a lot of people don't know this. How to bring in that scrollable screen, make it scrollable. So that's something interesting. So now we got the scrollable screen. You can see now we have the add section here. This is basically scrollable, and we have one data card. Basically, data card is a concept where we can just all the data coming from the different data sources we can connect within the data card. So if you see here, what we have in the data card here, so this is basically the canvas control which we dropped here on this application, and these are basically data cards. So the data cards uh, gives us control, and it established connection with the data source. So within the data card, they have dropped a container just to lay out the structure of the form, and then different controls. Then we can see different controls within this. Basically, these controls are integrated with our data source. You can see we have applied some code onto that, so that we can look into our next session, the code part. But so far, the goal was just to design and give a nice looking layout for this one. So let's jump back onto our application, and let me just bring it down here. Bring it down. How to move it? It's jumping onto my header. My header must be. Let me see. Bring it down. Any questions so far? Let's change the position. It's 0, 0. Our position must be the vertical. This is y. So let's make it y 50. Why it's not changing the position? Let's change the position of this guy. Okay. So y-axis position is rectangle with x one. Okay. Plus height. Let's remove this one. Don't need this. We just need a custom position. Let's see. P, maybe 80. So we can just program it the way we want it to, but for now, I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. But we can, of course, we can dynamically provide X and Y. So that's why this position was just because it was just picking up values from the rectangle. So that's why I will just stick with the existing uh, the entire screen. Any question? Shafi, do you have any question? Okay.
They are sleeping.
Yes. Yasin has any question?
No, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So the next, what we have here, so we designed this much for our form. So let's jump back onto the pure Word document and see what we have. So next is the date and POC name. So within this canvas control and this data card, this is the first data card. So within this data card, so we need to select this first and then insert a label, text label. So this text label is basically, so now you can see this text label is sitting within this data card. So now we can provide date. Basically, this column is date. We can fill in the back, what the color must be. We can just randomly pick up anything. For example, this is as a fillable color. I know it's better just to use the variables, the global variables to lay out, but I know for now, yeah, I'm not using, but we can just, I can provide the value from the existing global variable, but for now, I'm just keeping it as simple as possible, just to make a basic understanding. But of course, when you're developing or applicant form for any client or any professional users, of course, you're gonna go and update most of the color scheme through the global variable. So the next thing we need to bring in is a text import. Basically, it's a text. We need to bring in the date, right? So it's a date. Let's pick up the date picker. This is our date picker. We can just lay out this. And even these values, we can just consider the positioning, size, must be, everything must be standardized, and you should have a fixed number of, for size, you should provide fixed size for all the controls being dropped onto the page. But for now, I'm not going into that detail, but you guys can focus on. So the next control we need for the POC name, within the same data card, I can drop, I can have another data card. Let's see, because each data, it's good to have a separate data card for each action. See, with this one, we are having separate data card for each uh, control value, because these things would be connected with the SharePoint table. I click here, draw, insert, data card. It's different. Let's just copy here, copy this, Control V, Control V. I do this, copy, it's already copied. Copy is coming. Any message?
No, no message there. This was Osama getting.
Sorry?
No, no message there. This was Osama log.
Okay. Oh, okay. Why the copy is not only paste is this guy. This
I change the focus to the main container. And then paste it. I think so.
here. No, I wanted to copy this guy and replace. Okay, let's do this. Copy this. Now, that's interesting. I didn't look into this data, date figure, data card is not in the insert site as well. Let's see this. Use this approach. Here, it's only coming to paste, not the copy section. Osama, are you there?
जी जी अर्षद भाई अस्सलाम वालेकुम
Oh. Do you know why I don't see the copy, the data card?
डाटा कार्ड को कॉपी करना चाह रहे हैं
Yes. It's
एक
just
मिनट
showing the
रुकेंगे तो
paste.
ओके ओके ओके
I just wanted to duplicate this data card, but it's just saying the paste, not the copy. But when I paste, it just copied basically this entire canvas. I don't want to copy the entire canvas. Okay, let's do this. This control. Okay, it's gonna copy only the control, right? Yeah, it's copying only the control. Why is not copying only the data card? That's interesting. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. I know that. Okay, my bad. So basically, a data
व्हाट
card
इज
can be
इट
only added through the add section. I just missed that. So now we can add, see, it added a new data card on the back. So
सॉरी व्हाट वाज इट अर्षद भाई
basically, with the canvas control, you can add data card only by adding, clicking onto the add section here at the bottom.
okay
Even you cannot copy. Yeah, I
you're
thought
okay
we can
you
copy because I thought there
you're
should be
using
the
this canvas
functionality to
control
copy.
okay
Yeah,
okay
it's just the
okay
canvas control because I know generally we can copy. If we are
yeah
outside of the canvas control, then we can copy.
mm-hmm.
Here, since it's part of the canvas control, which is just a scrollable, so that's why we were unable to copy paste, but instead we have to click here onto the add section. So now we got the next data control. Oh my gosh, that's so funny and interesting. So let's now you can realign, and the scrollable section is already there. So yeah, the positioning, everything can be done. The size for the first data card, I know it's height is too much. We can just make it 50 for now. Oh, it was just a data card 2 selected. So let's start going. Uh, so this is 200 as well. So this is how you can just add the data cards and update their data card values. So let's add within the data card 2, we can insert the same thing. We can just insert the label. And the label, we can just name it POC name. And the next control is the text input. The, uh, the size with the label. We can fill in the same, this color. I guess this is the color we are just looking so far. And this is just the input controls. Okay, so this is how you can add different data cards. So far, I have added, but better to just copy paste existing. I don't know how to copy paste though. That I may need to look into that later on. But you can provide the hint here. It's just a hint text, for example. It's POC in just a hint text. You can see it's being displayed here as a hint text. Data card 1, data card 2. So any question so far? So let's play this. What it done. So this is how it looks like so far. I know it's already 12:30, so I guess I think that's it for today, and we can continue working on this during our next session because it's 12:30 uh, in Pakistan. Maybe you guys have to
Okay.
go to the bed. What do you think,
Yes,
Yasir?
but yes, just simply can you show how to connect with this SharePoint table? You can
Okay,
see
that's
yes.
a very good point. Okay, let's here. It's a data. We can just connect here and just call a search for the SharePoint. Do the SharePoint. This is already my user is already logged in. I can just copy this. Oh, already showing some of these, so I can just pick up directly from here or copy paste. From here, we can just search for your. So this is our SharePoint table, and we can connect it. So now this is connected. The application is connected with the SharePoint side. So now for each data control, we need to map it with our data source. But I know for this, we need to work on, let's say, the get item. Or so now this application is connected with SharePoint table. But here, let's see, I can copy the code for here, the get item, and just change it a little bit. This is our get item on select. I'm going to, we already have some stuff here. So basically set, yeah, this is, I think, Yasir, we can go in more detail on the next session. I need to provide some basics about the patching and all that. Then we can just,
Oh,
connect. Yeah, it's a little more coding part
okay,
involved
it's okay.
with this. So I will just give you more detail because I know this is how we can connect, but the next steps are where we just map different components, what data must be in what table, what control. So all these kind of things. So we can just talk about that in
Okay,
next
that's
session
fine.
where we just focus on the code side. Because so far we were just focusing on the screen side, the screen design and layout, and we connected with the data source. But the next session we will focus on the code side. I will provide some. I will send some links before our class so that everyone come with some understanding, and then can just focus on uh, deep diving into the code side. Okay.
Okay. I
Mhm.
have few things to ask, sir, before. May I please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, first thing, I read that before that we have only two types of channels for Canvas apps, like phone and tablets. I mean, for desktop apps, we need model-driven apps. Is it true
No, no, no,
or
no, 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 no. See, I'm using a desktop, right? But they are
Just I am added
now.
one thing. Yasin, you can the tablet and phone is like the viewpoint. you will put an HTML source. You can set how this design will be displayed. File first desktop. That's the approach. How you display the screen. That
Right.
was the channel. Yeah.
Because sir, when I was going to create a Canvas app, when I was working on it, it was giving me only two options for creating
That is the
Canvas.
layout. Oh, that is the layout only.
Exactly, I'm
Design layout.
talking about the layout.
Yes, but this layout, whatever you choose, like I just you selected the tablet one, so you can see it's my computer and it's visible on all over. So it works in even in the browser as well. I know they have not provided, but recently they have released update, and if you see here on the screen side, they have you can see now it says shows you phone as well as this big screen size. So I know they haven't provided when you choose the option, they say just the tablet and the phone, but the tablet option is basically being used as a browser for the desktop.
That is
So
also
the
responsive
tablet,
layouts.
yeah, it's a responsive layout. So you don't
Yes,
need to worry about that.
that's it.
It
And
works for the tab.
there's
Mhm.
another thing to ask that there are some certain Microsoft announced features for it. Like ये मतलब रीजन वाइज डिफर कर सकते हैं, जो रीजन हम सेलेक्ट करेंगे क्रिएट करने से पहले, तो वो फीचर्स हमें उसी रीजन में कुछ हमें कुछ रीजन में कुछ फीचर्स मतलब वो प्रोवाइड किए जा रहे हैं, और वो क्या ये ऐसे
Good
डिफर
point.
करते
Good point. Good point. You know what? Honestly, I don't know exact answer, but what I can think of, uh, yes, they can do. Microsoft generally release these as a preview first. If you go here in settings, uh, advanced settings, not here. In the advanced, they have. That's a good question though. Power Apps. Here they always keep releasing new programs and new updates. Here, let's see, where is that? Let me log in and see if that is here.
right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Basically, they release new updates as a preview, and you can choose those. You can select those options from the setting and make and utilize those preview updates in your application. But it totally depends on you. They don't immediately release it for everyone. So initially, at the beginning, it's just a pick and choose. Whoever wanted to see the preview updates, they can go and start using it. But initially they remain in preview settings for quite some time. But
Right.
once Microsoft feels like these updates are bug free, then they make it public to everyone. But at the beginning, it stays for quite some time. It stays um, as a preview, and you can select like you wanted to use that preview or updated feature or not. Let me see, where is that? There was inside the setting, but for some reason it's not.
And we started it with a blank, right? So can is it any possibility, or is it can we use, I mean, some built-in templates as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. We can use here. We have the templates, right? So we already have some templates given by Microsoft. It totally depends on your requirement. In this case, we had the requirement to create a screen based on a Word document. And I don't think we have any of the existing template applicable onto what we were designing. But if you feel like existing templates are helpful, then you can just pick up any layout or template from here. So
All these
layouts, yeah,
templates
these are
should
the
be
layouts. Here. Yes, please go ahead.
Uh, these templates are customizable, right?
Of course, these are customized. They have just provided. Let's see. Let's create a new screen based on this template and see what. See, we have just the basic top application name. We have this gallery, so you can just connect this gallery with any data source. So in this case, for example, we already created a connection with the far pure notice table. So if I pick it up, we have this here. It's already connected, but we don't have any data in this. So let's do the data entry real quick. Test. I'm just randomly picking some stuff because save. We got this data here, and if I refresh this guy, uh, I'm going here. I know I haven't changed the data structure, so I don't need to refresh. But basically, this refresh is needed when with the data structure, but still, it brought in that data, right? If I make another entry, since it's just this one is just a gallery, so it will show whatever number of records are in the data source. It will start showing it. See, now we got two records.
Two
So we can
records.
choose what we need to display here. We can always decide what it uh, what it should show here. So I think we talked about that a little bit before, but of course we're gonna go in more detail later classes.
Sure, sir. Inshallah.
Yeah, and I'm asking like if Usama can take a lead and give us any session. I know they're very good in Canvas apps and all that because my basically I don't design these screens very often. I'm just getting into these things. So we need
Arshad,
to.
if you want, I can show you something for your, just to create some interest or suspense, and I can explain that things, that app, or I'm working on that the idea you gave me about the advanced search in the
Oh, okay.
SharePoint
Yeah, we
list.
mean, yeah, we need to talk Osama on that. What about that that document? Sorry to ask you. I don't. This is not the right forum to ask, but let me stop recording. I think we are done with that part yet, for now at least. And then okay. Yeah, I stopped recording. So yeah.